The other thing that we do not provide alternatives, our shadow minister, privileged 2.5 years, I did that. The Hansard is very clear on that. When you come to the Parliament Library, we'll be very happy to give you a copy of what the opposition actually thinks should be the outlook of agriculture in terms of the way it is financed and managed in this country. When you say that we don't understand these things, we actually understand. I have the NAADS Act here. As a previous shadow minister, I took time to try to understand this document. But precisely, my brothers and sisters, the issue is we tend to take politics into issues that should not be politicized. It doesn't matter whether you're yellow, blue, red. We all suffer food insecurity. And in our families back home, we see people who actually, when you arrive, they think the savior has arrived. You have seen your aunties kneeling and praising you for giving them 1,000 shillings. And that is the face of agriculture in this country. Because if around 70% of the population is dependent on agriculture and only one subsector of the whole agricultural sector is performing, then you have cause to worry. The gentleman, the PRO of NAADS, is talking about the success in agricultural research. My husband actually heads the research program in Namlonge, the serious program. And so I know the operations of research in this country from the bedroom. And therefore, for you to suggest that NAADS is doing an excellent job, we monitor the budgets. Over 70% of the financing of all these technologies that are being developed either in Namlonge or in Kawanda or in all these research stations, these are financed by donors. And now you can imagine, if we are unable to finance research, because there are few scientists there whose impact is just these technologies are very important. You're talking about 3 out of 10. The mandate of NARO, for example, is to generate those technologies. The uptake is a responsibility of NAADS. She has ably said, where is the market? If you give me a high-yielding variety and I produce to fill this room, and eventually I am being told that this maize is 50 shillings a kilo, what incentive do I have to go and dig again? Okay. I would rather become a boda rider in Kampala. Probably my brother Maurice would help me digitalize boda riding other than agriculture extension.
All right, let's go to Maurice quickly. Yes.
Therefore, I agree with her when she says that we must give the Ugandan farmer hope. How do we give the farmer hope? First of all, let's go back to the basics of financing agriculture. What is the percentage? When you're talking about 2.8% of the GDP going to agriculture, you're talking about 36 million Ugandans, and you're only putting 2.8% of the GDP into agriculture. What investment is this? You have millions of mouths to feed. You are not resourcing this sector. And therefore, even if agriculture, the extension that we are talking about, NAADS is to succeed, we need a comprehensive financing framework for the entire sector, not just the subsidiary sectors, that can only work to our political advantage.
Okay,
and therefore, it's pertinent that even when we debate this NAADS issue, we should look at the comprehensive way of financing agriculture in this country. It is a NRM caucus, there will be funds available. If it's a presidential advisor's car breaking down, that will be fixed. But if it is agriculture, they'll say, okay, we will look into that. If it is primaries, we will do the primaries and the money will be available. And therefore, it is totally wrong to suggest that certain things are planned and they're not implemented. Let's look at the financing framework of the entire sector.
All right, let's okay, I wanted to go to Morrison, but let me come to Patience instead. Help us put this in perspective. How much money does the Ministry of Agriculture receive from our budget?
We are currently in the
2013-2014 financial year, yes.
So that's 3%, about 3%.
3% of the budget.
Of the budget, yes.
Maputo Protocol was supposed to come to 10%.
Yes.
70% of the population relies, even more than 70%, relies on agriculture, and we're only giving them 3% of our budget. Is that really sustainable?
Well, it is, as government, there are a number of, challenges. There are so many competing priorities within the government system. And of course...
And agriculture is not a priority.
Of course, when it comes to, there are so many in this new world order, there are so many intervening factors that lead to drifting resources from the productive sectors to address certain challenges that come that need to be addressed. Honestly, of course, if you have a population that is growing at 3.2%, and you are only putting in 3% or 2.8% into a sector that has, when you look at it, we have 23% contribution to GDP. Now, and yet you have over people who are entirely depending on the sector, as a source of income, about 66%. Meaning that 23% of the national wealth is being shared by 66% of the population. These are the statistics we have to agree that actually we have as government. We are moving because the projections are we need to have at least in the next 3-4 years to move from the current, assuming factors remain constant, we should be able to increase positively, maybe move to about 6%.
Okay.
But when it comes to the Maputo Declaration, was 10%, and the assumption was if you are going to invest 10% of your GDP, you will cause a 6% growth in the agricultural sector. If you want a 6% growth, you need to invest 10%. And actually, that's why you see I'm sure times have come now that with all these challenges we have been going through, the issue of food security is becoming very central. And even in the international agenda, agriculture is back high on the agenda. So I'm very certain that we are going to be very as we move on. This underfunding is going to be addressed.
Okay, let's quickly go to Morrison before we go for a break.
I want to make a comment on have we increased, for instance, productivity in this country since NAADS started. You see, and the evidence is that in all major sectors, if you look at the crop sector, if you look at the animal sector, there has been progress in terms of productivity, increasing production, and that's important. 2, have we looked at the way the demographic profile of this country, the way population has been increasing from time to time? You see, so when you look at those indicators, you actually see a curve that is moving up. So meaning things have been happening, but they may not have been happening at a faster rate that we need to really break even or transform. But that doesn't mean that we have been... You see, I don't agree with Abia who wants us to be trapped in the past or envision in a reverse gear. I think that's wrong. When we talk of Vision 2040, transformation, those are the things we need to talk about. You see, my friend Agnes talks about the market. And now the consensus is actually that the market is available. But the problems are impediments of accessing that market and benefiting from that market. How do you link production to the market? How do you remove those constraints of supply? How do you get demand to interact with the supply? South Sudan, within the region, not even going abroad.
Morrison,
let me finish this point.
I'm going to let you finish this point. I'm going to let you finish. In the objective of the Act, the NAADS Act, it ends by saying promotion of market-oriented agriculture.
That's the point I'm making.
That you're talking about.
This is the point I'm making.
Okay, you'll continue with that point when we come back.
No.
Let's take a break right now. Morrison continues that point. Stay watching our Parliament.